My friends, I'm inviting you to put your troubles away for the next 20 minutes or so. It's time for a new video, a new concept. It's Real Talk. Hi guys, and welcome to Real Talk, where we discuss the movies and TV shows we love with the emphasis on the music and soundtracks. Now, if you're one of my regular subscribers, you will know that this is a brand new addition to the channel, and indeed, if this video has brought you to the channel, I want to welcome you with open arms and say that this channel fundamentally discusses piano, keyboard, and synthesizer artists, and you can see what this channel's about by simply scanning or browsing through my video catalog. The idea behind the Real Talk series is really to focus, as I say, on TV shows and movies with the emphasis on the soundtracks. Now, the 80s did give us some of the most iconic TV shows: Airwolf, Knight Rider, Street Hawk, Miami Vice, and all those TV shows had the most fantastic soundtracks. I've often talked about that being the sort of like the decade of the, where synthesizers were new and it was all fresh and innovative. Of course, looking back at these TV shows now they are cheesy, but at the time they were very cutting edge and groundbreaking. And Airwolf, for sure, was one of my favorite TV shows of all times. I've got such a soft spot in my heart for Airwolf. Now, this being the first video, this is going to be a scratch the surface video. I'm going to talk about my feelings on the TV show, just in free-flowing style, as we always do on this channel. And then at the end, I will run through briefly some of the musical parts. And then at the end of the video, I'm going to invite you to leave your comments in the comments section below, so that I can see what your feelings are before we sort of roll this out any further. So anyway, with all that being said, please grab your favorite drink and join me on a trip down memory lane as we dive deeply and geekily into Airwolf. So Airwolf was released in 1984 and carried on till about 1987. Of course, you can find all the exact details online. And having said that, if you are an Airwolf enthusiast like myself, I've just joined this Facebook group, and if you're an Airwolf fan, I'm going to insist that you go there and join. You will find me there. I've been quite active on that group since I've joined over the last week or so. That's the Airwolf Facebook group. They are doing a great job. I've had so many sort of questions answered, many questions I've had on the TV show and the series. A lot of the geeks and enthusiasts in that group have answered my questions, and it reminds me a lot of the Vaughan George Facebook group. It's a very, very friendly group, so get over there and join. My first introduction to Airwolf was in 1984. I was very young, and my dad came home with a VHS cassette. Now, he had rented it, and to the people my age and older, remember the days when we'd go out to video stores and we'd rent VHS cassettes. Anyway, it was a different time, and to those of you who weren't around, man, you've missed out big time. But anyway, my dad came home with this VHS cassette, and it was rated 18. Now, this is the DVD re-released. It's funny, it's got an R rate of 18, but of course, by today's standards, this would be like a PG-12, Of course, they did later on edit this for, it was adapted for TV, because of course, this was like the pilot, and then they obviously had a TV series, actually 4 series that ran after this. But this to me was like the very first episode I saw. It was the movie, and it really, really got me into Airwolf. I never forget the opening iconic scene. It's just that droning sort of 80s synthesizer sound, and you just see that that menacing walk when when Dr. Charles Henry Moffett and his crew walk towards the camera. And you can't see their faces, and I just love the way the camera in the initial scenes, you don't actually see the helicopter. It's just extreme close-ups of like the wheel, and you get that. Is it a praying? It's not a praying mantis, but that lizard-like creature that crawls onto the wheel, and extreme close-ups of the tail rotor. And I'm getting gooseflesh as I say this now. And when he hits the start 1 and the start 2, boom, 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 boom. And as I say, up until that point, all you see are just extreme close-ups of everything. So everything you've got no sort of, you go, what is that? Oh, is that a tail rotor? Everything's so close up. But then as it goes, you see the camera pans on the rotors, and then the camera pans back, and you just see it coming over the. Oh, come on! That to me is one of the most. That is one of the ultimate scenes in television history. I mean, just seeing that menacing machine coming over, with its we always used to do this in school, because Airwolf had the chain guns. It was 1, 2, and the big one at the bottom, 1, 2, and it had the ADF part at the bottom. We used to run around like this, going, like trying to imitate the sound of it. Anyway, we're gonna geek out very big in this episode, so beware. I just loved seeing it, and as it hovered down, you're like, wow. It was like it looked like some kind of whale or like a dolphin. It was so beautiful. And I mean, indeed, if you look at it now, it's just a stunning looking piece of machinery. Red Star Control, Airwolf. Airwolf, you have a go. And that is where we're introduced to Alex Cord, who was Michael Goldsmith Briggs III, codename Archangel, and he is there introducing Senator Dietz to the new Airwolf. We're not going to delve too deeply into the episode details. We're just talking generally. This does really depend on, at the end of the video, if you guys want to see me, go into more detail, then we will. But we're introduced to Archangel, and we're introduced to Charles Henry Moffett, who is the designer. This is Charles Henry Moffett. I am the creator of Airwolf. And he is this psychotic, mad, sort of like a mad professor. He's got a really dark side. And, Red Star Control, you have a go. And this is a test site where they're testing Airwolf, to show it to Senator Dietz. And we all know the story. Some spoilers here, obviously. Moffett steals Airwolf, blows up Red Star Control, and he flies it off to Libya because he is chums with Gaddafi. So he keeps Airwolf in a place called Gaddafi's Summer Palace, in a place called Kafir. And what's fascinating is I actually want to show you something here. I've got this publication here. It's from a online source called www.airwolf.tv. And this is a publication I got. This is issue number 3. And what's fascinating about this is, if you're an Airwolf fan, you'll love this. It's got everything about the TV show. Meet Gary Lee. It talks about the producers, the set designers. It talks about how they converted Airwolf, which is a Bell 222 helicopter, and they also talk about the challenges of when Donald Bellisrario, the producer, when they got the idea for Airwolf, they needed something that would look the part. And this publication is very interesting because it goes into detail about how they, what the challenges were. Obviously when we look at Airwolf, it's obvious to us what it is, but just think back at the time when they decided, this is the brief, this is what it's going to look like, this is file A56-7W, and they've got to decide, okay, what are we going to do? They ran into all kinds of challenges because, the Bell 222 is a beautiful helicopter, just its lines and everything. But of course it had to be modified because, the air intakes that they put in on the side, though, that's not actually fundamental for the helicopter to fly. Those were add-ons to make it look, like the Airwolf we know. But they did face a lot of challenges because the FAA had to approve a lot of the modifications. And bearing in mind, this thing goes up in the sky. If something goes wrong, you'll kill the crew. So everything had to be really, really well thought out. And this publication goes into it really, really well. Speaking about Gaddafi's Summer Palace, where Moffett keeps Airwolf, you'll be fascinated to learn that in this publication it talks about how that was actually filmed in California. Obviously it wasn't going to be filmed in Libya. And what's very fascinating about this as well is they talk about the Airwolf helicopter, but they also talk about the mock-up. Now the mock-up was an old Bell 222. They had the shell of it, and that is the set that you'd see Dominic and String in. Of course, Stringfellow Hake and Dominic Santini, the the stars of the show, Jan Michael Vincent and Ernest Borgnine. And then, of course, later seasons, there was Jean Bruce Scott as Caitlin. But back to this publication, what I loved about this was also it shows the inside of the helicopter, you know, the sort of mock-up. And I remember as a kid, who wasn't fascinated? I built myself an Airwolf out of cardboard when I was a kid, you know. And I used to watch VHS cassettes, and every time they press a button, I would pause the video and go, oh, and I would copy it, and then I would, you know, my cardboard Airwolf, it was a frame I built out of cardboard, and I used to draw the buttons, and my brother and I used to play, and you know, we used to often fight, you know, who's going to be Stringfellow Hake, you know, because I didn't want to be, you know, no one wanted to be Santini because he was the old guy. We all wanted to be Stringfellow Hake. As you can see, I'm like a happy gibberish kid talking about this. But when we talk about the movie, obviously the movie was very, very successful. They then went on to do, you know, a TV series, which was a spin-off. And I've actually got those here. They had season 1, which I have here on DVD. They also had, after that, season 2... and then they had season 3. Now, I believe these all aired on the CBS network. At the end of season 3 is when things got a little bit, let's just say, went downhill a little bit. You know, the series, I think that they'd run... I don't know if they'd run out of money, but it just wasn't as profitable. The ratings were dropping. But then in, I think, 1987, season 4, which is the season I prefer not to remember, that was the Canadian company picked it up, and they took over the series. And the tone of the season 4 to me was very dark, and it was just a bit off. Now, they only had a limited budget of, I believe, was it $300,000 per episode. And because the budget was so limited, they never actually had a flying helicopter. So it was all made use of stock footage. And season 4 to me was just very disconnected, and yeah, it just felt off. And I, for all intents and purposes, you know, I don't like to talk negatively about anything. You know, I believe they were sincere in what they did. But when I'm talking about Airwolf, as far as I'm concerned, Airwolf starts at season 1 and ends at season 3. So we don't talk about season 4. I think if you say Airwolf to any fanboy or fangirl, they will go... There was that iconic sequence riff. I don't think it was played like that. I think it was an arpeggio. But anyway, so there was fundamentally the synthesizer score, and then there was the orchestral score. And the orchestral score was used a lot in season 1. I do like it. It was very, very epic. But as I say, by the time they got to season 2, they really sort of like changed it, replaced it more for the synthesizer score, because of course synthesizers were huge in the 80s. The orchestral score being... and then it would transpose. And then it would just do that again, and then the next part to come in would be this real sort of soothing string part. And then transpose again. And then, of course, you had the kind of like the sad part, and this is usually the part where Airwolf was kind of a little bit in danger, or was taking fire. Airwolf in peril is this. This is the part I call Airwolf in peril. The theme is very, very beautifully simplistic and is glorious, and it's quite moody at the same time, but it's really epic. And it always ends with the baddie or the evil boss getting his ass kicked, and it's always it's usually Stringfellow Hake. He's taken a beating because it's the enemy's behind him, and then he does that maneuver where it flips and it like Airwolf sound, and he gets behind him and it's like dun 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 block, and it's always like oh man, what a theme. As I say, it was really orchestral in season 1, and then they sort of changed it from this very sort of orchestral sound to using something more sort of synthesized, more something like this. Not that exact sound, of course, but it was a more sort of like a brassy type of synth lead that they used. Sylvester Levay provided some of the most breathtaking themes and musical scores for the Airwolf series, and every episode in the series had a different theme. Obviously the Airwolf theme ran through it, but in every episode, a bit like Miami Vice, you had the Crockett's theme, which was Crockett's theme for that character. Every episode had a different sort of musical theme, and there are many of those musical themes which we will hopefully address if you guys are interested in this series. But my favorite musical themes, besides the actual Airwolf theme itself, would be the Eagle'e Serenade. Stringfellow Hake was a really moody, reclusive, he's a very sad. I won't say sad, I don't mean that in a bad way, but he was a very downbeat kind of sad. He carried a lot of weight, and that Eagle'e Serenade, which he played on the cello, it just suited his character brilliantly. Something like that. Obviously I can't play the cello, so I'm just using the Roland Integra 7, which has got a great cello sample. I love that Eagle'e Serenade that he plays. It can bring you to tears, and in fact, I think the theme that did in fact bring me to tears the other day when I was watching Airwolf again for this little video. Was the Gabrielle's theme. I absolutely love that, and it can bring you to tears. It just has such sincerity. Okay, that's a condensed version, but I would like to do videos where we go in depth into these themes and the soundtrack, but that is entirely up to you. So once again, if you are one of my regular subscribers, you will know this is how we flow on this channel, unscripted and just on the fly, as though you were sitting with me in the studio here. And indeed, if you're one of the new people who've come to the channel, I want to welcome you with open arms, and I will hope that you will hit that subscribe button and join this community. And the question to you all is now, what are your feelings on Airwolf? Are you an Airwolf fan? And is this something you would like me to elaborate on and go into more depth on, more episodes moving forward? Because once again, the whole idea for this video was just to see if you guys are interested in this before I spend a lot of time producing, in-depth content. So let me know anything you want to say. Introduce yourself to the community. Make yourself known. Hey man, this is a great community, and as I say, if you've just come here, I'm glad to welcome you on board. Comments below. Anything you want to say about Airwolf, and I look forward to seeing you all on the next episode here on the Vaughan George channel. Thank you so much, guys. All the best. Adios.